People who are not really steeped in the ways of culinary breakthroughs. In the ways of culinary breakthroughs would look at this and see a design flaw. But in fact, that's not the case at all. Because this spoon-like ladle contraption does in fact come with an ergonomically designed handle.
Hey, good morning and welcome. Now, we are starting this brand new series today called Struggle. I'm Mike, I'm one of the pastors here, and I'll give you a little bit of peek behind the curtain, so to say. Man, it is like 2 minutes before church is starting, and I happened to look up and my iPad was on, like glowing, and I usually turn it off, and I thought, that's super weird. And so I walked up here real quick and looked at it, and it's like doing some restart thing. I don't know, it's got just the Apple logo, and I'm like, oh my lands, what am I going to do? And so like quickly I get my laptop out and I get it out, and I'm like, I got to get a plan B, because like I know my notes, but I don't know my notes. It's going to be an awkward time for the next 30 minutes if I'm doing this straight off of memory. So I'm kind of freaking out about that, and I'm like, man, and so then I go and sit down and I start the fog machine. You guys notice there's some fog up here, and that thing starts making the most horrendous screeching sound ever. And I'm like, what in the world? And I'm like, struggle. Hashtag struggle is totally real this morning. So I'm hoping my iPad makes it, but if not, I'll run over there. I got a plan B we'll get through today. I don't know what was wrong with it or what it decided to do. Anyway, man, if you're joining us this week, it's an awesome week to come hang out as we start this new series called Hashtag Struggle, Following Jesus in a Selfie-Centered World. And what I want to do in this series is I want to look at 5 of the things that we often struggle with, and a lot of times based off of social media and the input that we have with social media and these struggles that we have. And so I feel like even if you're not on social media, though, when we look at these struggles, there's going to be things throughout this series that are going to speak to you in various ways. Now, before I get too far into the series, I do want to say I don't hate social media. It has a very good purpose and a very good place. I'm not a heavy user of social media myself. I'll get on there a little bit. Mostly I don't like social media because I'm old, and by the time I figure out how to use one social media, everybody's moved to another one. So, this TikTok thing, my daughter and I made a TikTok the other day. It was bad. Anyway, I'm trying to stay hip and cool, but I'm just not there. Anyway, but I truly believe that there is a good benefit and a good purpose to social media. I talked just a few weeks ago on this very stage about how the reach that we get with Facebook and Facebook Live. We have people that can't make it here geographically because they're not in the area, or some of them work. I know that I've talked to specifically, and they're like, man, I'm so glad you guys do that, because I can't go to church and then get home and get changed, and they can still feel like they're a part of Ignite. They can still, experience the messages because of this platform of social media. So social media has a lot of good benefits to it. It makes such a big world a lot smaller. But at the same time, with all these opportunities that we have with technology, you also get some unintended consequences that tend to end up going with that. And what I want to do in this series is I want to raise a few of those issues that we might come up with and contrast them to what the Bible says about those things. I believe that the series is going to be extremely valuable. I'm super excited about it. I was talking to the group the other day and said, man, I was sorry to leave the Activated series because I personally got so much out of it. But I think going into this one, it's going to be something that's really going to benefit us, whether we're on social media or we're not. It's going to benefit each one of our lives. So I put in your notes kind of what we're going to go through each week. And if you want to, if you're taking notes, you can jot those down. You can figure out what weeks you're going to show up and what weeks you're not based off the content we're talking about. I'm just kidding. We're all going to be here all the time. But I just kind of wanted to give you an idea, assuming that God doesn't take us a different path or direction, like sometimes he does. If I just feel like this is something that really we're supposed to talk about this week. This is kind of the ideas that we're going to go through each week. So the first week we're going to talk about contentment. And that's what we're going to talk about today is contentment. Look at this problem that we have when we begin to compare ourselves to other people, how we can become dissatisfied in our own hearts. Next week, we're going to look at intimacy. When we post something online, it's really interesting because we like doing that because we can get immediate feedback from people. They begin to like it or heart it or give us comments, and we like that immediate feedback. But unfortunately, we're turning to social media and online too much for our intimacy. And it gives us this illusion of companionship, but we don't have the demands of a friendship in this situation. And I think that's what people are really looking for is that valuable face-to-face time. They're longing for that, and we're kind of supplementing it with this online life. So we're going to look at intimacy next week. The week after that is authenticity. Man, for the first time in the history of humans, we can almost filter everything out of our life that we want other people to see. We can change our posts that we put out there. We can change our pictures. We can Photoshop our pictures. We can put ourselves in various places. We can make sure that people only see the us that we want them to see. But in doing so, we're losing a lot of that authenticity that we have in our lives. It becomes more difficult for us to be actually authentic. Fourth week, we're going to talk about compassion. Studies have shown over the last 20 years that as people, we actually have less compassion for other people. And I attribute that to this big world becoming smaller a lot. We are just inundated day after day, week after week. Some places having a natural disaster. Some places having a shooting. Somebody's chopping up somebody and putting them in the freezer. Whatever it is. I mean, just day after day after day, there's just these horrific stories that, man, used to really break our heart, and now it's just the world. I mean, we just see it constantly. And in doing that over and over, our hearts just become a little bit more calloused. And God calls us to be compassionate, caring people, but we kind of miss out on that because of this overwhelming flood of all this negativity that's constantly coming our way, and it's finally there. And then finally, as we wrap up this series, week 5, we're going to talk about rest. And I'm really excited for this week. This is something that God's really been talking to me a lot about lately, since probably about November of last year, but yet I'm not really listening. I'm kind of being disobedient in that sense, but this idea of needing rest. And from a social media aspect, we are so tethered to our phones. We're so tethered to what's going on in the world outside of our immediate circle even. There's a lot of people I know that the last thing you do before bed is look at your social media. The first thing you do when you wake up is look at your social media. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you get on something might have happened between midnight and 5. You got to make sure at 3 you're looking at it as well. So this tetheredness that we have, but even outside of social media, the texts and the emails and the phone calls and the idea that everything that's not right here with us is more important than what is right here with us. And so I want to look at this concept of rest and relaxing and just kind of calming down in life, that we make sure that we have like this priority in our life over just stopping for a little bit and having that moment even that God can talk to you. So that's what we're going to be going through for the next few weeks of the series. But I want to go ahead and dive in today as we start our series, #Struggles, and look at this subject of today. We're going to talk about discontentment, this envy that we have, and how do we actually become content in Christ. There's a lot of studies that show that this world has never been more discontent than it ever has been right now. Think about it. Never have so many people ever had as much as they have, but yet so many people aren't happy with what they have right now, and they think that they need more and they need more. And sociologists will tell us that social media is this biggest idea driving to this discontentment in their life. Because what happens is when we look at other people's lives on social media, they look perfect. But what we don't understand and realize a lot of the times is we're looking at a mere snapshot of their life. We think about our lives and we think, this is how horrible my life is, and look at what we're looking at their highlight reels, and we know what our life is like. We feel like losers because we're seeing the best of their best, and we know the worst of our worst. And we're constantly comparing ourselves to these posts or these things that we see online. For example, I heard this story about two moms. One was a working mom and one was a stay-at-home mom. And they kind of were in the same circle and the same groups. They had kids that were the same age, and they followed each other on social media a little bit, kind of saw what each other were doing. And then eventually, because they continued to be at the same places, they began talking, became friends. And one of them one day just pipes up and tells the other mom, she said, the working mom says, "You know what? I'm so jealous of you. I hated you for the longest time because I would see all your posts and you're doing all these crafty things and you're spending all day at home with your kids and every meal at night is a home-cooked meal and man, I don't get any. I'm working hard all day and I can barely make ends meet, and I get home and just in time to throw some fast food on the table, and I'm tired and I get some baths and I put them to bed, and I'm just so jealous of your life." And the stay-at-home mom said, "That's funny because I'm actually so jealous of your life that you have. I mean, you get to interact with other adults and talk to other people. And like every day you go out to lunch and get to eat like, Panera or Olive Garden or whatever. And I haven't had anything but macaroni and cheese and goldfish since 2016 every day for lunch." So it's funny we have these two people that are comparing themselves based off these posts, based off these shots that they see, based off these highlight reels, and they're longing so much for what this other person has. Maybe you've been like that before. You've been longing to be a person that you see out there. You see this friend and they're having great dinners out with other people and there's all kinds of fun and all kinds of great food, and you're like, man, I'm sitting here just eating leftovers, and what kind of a loser am I that I this is my life here and this is their life there. Or you're looking at somebody else's profile and you see that they're on their second vacation of the year, and you're like, I can't even afford to go to the grocery store. How are these people going on all these vacations over and over? Man, I feel so bad about myself. Or you see the people that are at the gym and they got their workout pictures, they do this and then they take their selfie in the mirror, and you're looking at them all ripped and buff, and and you're like, man, I am the reason that Twinkies and Hostess stays in business, I mean, like I feel horrible about who I am. Never before have we been able to almost specifically measure popularity. When I was in school, I felt like I was a popular guy, but I could just tell you that I was a popular guy because I was a popular guy. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to that. It was just kind of maybe self-proclaimed. I don't know. But now, there's a specific measurement. You can look at your Twitter or your Instagram or your TikTok and see, how many followers do I have? They have 1.1 thousand followers, and I only have 176. Man, what kind of a loser am I? Or whenever you post something online and you're like, how come my sunset picture got 30 likes and theirs got 230 likes? It's the same sunset, it's the same outside. So there's specific numbers that we can even attach to this idea of popularity now, more than just guessing that I'm popular or I'm not. In fact, there's a lot of studies that have been done that look at people and how they feel about themselves and their lives after spending 30 minutes in some type of a social media platform. One I was reading about, they had people go and they would look at their Facebook feed for 30 minutes, and they would come back and reevaluate how they felt about themselves. And just in that small amount of time, they found that 1/3 of those people, after 30 minutes on Facebook, felt significantly more depressed, significantly more dissatisfied with their life, because as they're doing that, as they're looking at other people's lives, they're comparing themselves to these other people out there. So this is a real issue that we're facing. And what I want to kind of do to start off today is I want to just have us expose any discontentment that we might have in our lives. And I'm not going to ask you to write down your personal things, and this isn't to kind of pick on each one of us, but I do want to kind of talk about 3 different areas of discontentment that we have. And as we look at these, I think that many of us will find ourselves in one or maybe more categories of this discontentment that we have, whether it's through social media or whether it's outside of social media. If we're really honest with ourselves, we might be able to see some of these areas that we struggle within. So the first one that we're going to look at is material and financial discontentment. This could be like maybe you see a picture of somebody else's new car and you get frustrated because you're like, I liked my car yesterday, but today I don't like my car. My car's kind of junky now, because my car isn't as cool as their car is. And so this jealousy comes out on us because, they have this new thing and my thing that was okay yesterday isn't all that cool. Or you might see a picture of somebody else's post whenever, they're out to dinner, you see this picture of the post of this dinner that they made, and you're not looking at the dinner that they made actually, but you're looking beyond the dinner in their kitchen, and you're seeing, man, look at that kitchen that they have, and they got granite countertops, and they've got custom-built cabinets, and they got really cool knob pulley thingies on their cabinetry, and man, it's like, that is I wish I had that. I need that kitchen. I need that thing there. Or you see, your friends are on vacation again, and you look at this elaborate life that they have, and you just get this idea of this jealousy that you have because of the things that they have. You're not grateful for your friends. You're not happy for your friends, the things they got, but it's more of this envy and this jealousy that builds up because you see the things that they have, the toys that they have, the tools that they have, the fun stuff that they have. All the stuff that they have is so much better than yours, and you begin to think, man, I need that. If I just had that, I could be happy. If I just had that one more thing, then that would help me be content. And this is this idea when you find yourself materialistically or financially discontent. The next thing that we're going to talk about today is relational discontentment. You might see a picture of your friends and they're out hanging out, going to dinner or going to the movies or whatever, and they're posting stuff online, and you're like, well, how come they didn't invite me along? How come they're all going and doing stuff, but I don't get to be a part of this? And you feel excluded, and you get envious of this thing they're doing. Or you might not have a boyfriend, or you don't have a girlfriend, or you don't have a spouse, and you're like, why am I not married? Everybody else has somebody but me. You see them posting their little happy pictures, and you're like, that's not fair that they have somebody else, and here I sit alone. Or you could be a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad, and you're thinking, well, how come this person gets this life where they get to leave their kids every day and they get to go at work, or vice versa? You're somebody that works, and you're looking at the stay-at-home mom and stay-at-home dad, kind of like the story I was telling you. You're like, you know what? Like, that person has it all. They get to be there for their kids. They get to spend time. You're out there working your tail off so you can provide something for your kids, but then at the end of the day, you feel guilty because you're not spending time with them, because you're looking at other people's lives that they have and comparing yourself to that. And this is that idea of relational discontentment. It could be marriages. You're seeing this snapshot of somebody's marriage, and you're like, you know what, man, their marriage is perfect. They got it all figured out. Man, if my marriage were just like their marriage, it'd be so much better, and I don't know, they're happy, and, like things just aren't like I thought they were going to be in marriage. So these are all ideas of this relational discontentment. And the third one I want to talk about today is circumstantial discontentment. This is when you're looking at your life and you may be comparing to where somebody else's life is, and you think, man, I'm just not where I thought I was going to be right now. I mean, it may be your position at work. You don't have the job that you want there. I thought life was going to have more. I thought I was going to make it to this place. Or it could be just the place that you work. I thought I'd have a better job by now. Look at these people. They all have jobs that they love, and I wish I were in a different place right now. Honestly, this is one that I struggle with a lot. We used to go out of town a lot on the weekends. I enjoyed it. We'd go out on Friday. We may go to just simple Tulsa, Branson, Springfield, whatever. We'd stay the night. May go Friday, Saturday, come back. May go Saturday, Sunday, whatever. And then, obviously now I don't have the opportunity to do that anymore. I'm working all weekend. I work during the week. I work on the weekend. And I know this isn't a poor Mike, sad as me. I'm just being honest with you guys. That's all it is. But sometimes I get so frustrated, especially right now whenever the weather's warming up and people start going to the lake. And I'm like, I don't even want to see their pictures of the lake because, man, I get so jealous, I'm like, I want to be there, but I got to work this weekend. So, okay, go have fun and serve Satan at the lake. I don't care. I'll serve Jesus. I'll go to heaven. But this jealousy, in all seriousness, this jealousy does come in these situations where I just get frustrated. And I just think, you know what? I just wish I kind of had that life for a little bit. I wish that I could go back to where I was before and have those opportunities that I have. In all honesty, I come to my senses. So anyway, but Charles Swindoll has this quote that goes like this, that kind of talks about, I think, how we should perceive life and unfortunately how we do perceive life. And it goes like this. It says, I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. Man, that just, if you take a second and just kind of soak that in, life is really only 10% of the things that happen to me and 90% of the way that I react to it. But unfortunately, we live life the opposite way. We live life like life is 90% of the things that happen to me and 10% is how I react to it. See, it's not my fault that I have this jealousy. It's they shouldn't have posted those pictures. They're just bragging about going to the lake. And you know what? They're doing that personally to attack me because they know I'm struggling. I've got problems. I've got situations. When I look at that idea of thinking, really we have to look at this perspective of life is truly 90% of how we react to situations. Things happen, but how we react to it is how we would get away from that struggle. If we want to look at somebody who responds with a Christ-like perspective, I think one of the best people we could look at is the Apostle Paul. We're going to start off looking in Philippians today, but I wanted to talk real quick about just where he was in this moment as he wrote this next scripture that we're going to read. Because his life wasn't the best circumstances at all at this moment. Whenever he wrote this, he was actually sitting in a prison. And in that prison, he was chained to a Roman guard 24 hours a day. And this is still the perspective that he has in this moment. We'll start off in Philippians 4:12 and 13. It says, I know what is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in every situation. In other words, he's just saying, I know what it is to want. I know what it is to not want. I've had it all. I've not had it all. But he says, whether we are fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want, he says, you know what? I got the secret. I got the secret that I can tell you. And it doesn't matter what you got. It doesn't matter how much you have or how much you don't have. It doesn't matter whether you're hungry or full or whatever it is. But the secret is this. I can do all this through Christ who gives me strength. See, Paul says, I can do anything and everything through Christ who gives me strength. The secret of contentment is not found in what I have. The secret of contentment is not because of what I don't have. But the secret of contentment is found in Christ. See, and until you realize that Christ is all that you have, until you realize that Christ is all that you need, that contentment isn't going to be there. If you want that power of contentment, then you got to ask Christ to just strip everything else away. Because when you're clinging to Christ and when you realize that Christ is this help that he can offer you, that there's this piece of him that he can do things that you can't do. When you realize that he's your rock and he's your sustainer. When you realize that he's the peace that comforts our minds. When you realize that it doesn't matter how much that you search for likes or for hearts or for followers or for comments on your posts or whatever, all of that doesn't matter because we can get all of those things, but there's still that peace missing. That contentment is still missing until we realize that this goodness that Christ has, that can always make us satisfied no matter what we have or don't have, that it doesn't really matter. That we realize that we were born for eternity. And we have this longing for something. It's this eternity that Christ has created all humans for, and that's what we're constantly searching for. And until we understand that and realize that, until we let Christ be all that we need, we're always going to battle with these enemies of envy and want and discontentment. I will tell you the secret of being content, Paul said. Doesn't matter if I have a lot or I have a little or I'm in prison or no matter where I am. All that doesn't really matter. But through Christ, I can do everything. So what I want to do today is I want to look at two things that we need Christ's strength to be able to do to overcome this envy, to be able to overcome this discontentment that's put within us. The first one is, if you're taking notes, through Christ's strength, you can kill comparisons. Through Christ's strength, we can stop comparing to other people. Paul says in 2 Corinthians, We do not dare classify or compare ourselves with someone who commends themselves when they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves. They are not wise. Andy Stanley actually kind of shortened this and had a shorter version of this verse. It says, there's no win in comparisons. It's not wise. So it doesn't do us any good to compare. We're never going to win when we're comparing ourselves to somebody else. Yet our brain goes there all too often. It's not just a problem that I have, or you might be sitting there thinking, well, I'm the only one that deals with this. I think all of us tend to compare ourselves to other people and judge ourselves and judge who we are and judge how important we are based off of what we see. And then you feel like you have to have more and you have to get more things, and whether it's a better relationship or whether it's, better toys or better cars or whatever it is. But then you get those things and you still don't feel satisfied. You're still empty within inside. So we've got to learn to kill these comparisons. James tells us why we need to do that. And I want to look at this and just talk about how truly dangerous this idea of envy and comparison is. James 3:14, he starts off and says, "But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom," and you notice he puts wisdom in quotes, he's kind of being sarcastic there, saying, you got this wisdom of all this envy here. "Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but it is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic." That's just it. Envy is demonic. Envy is not spiritual. Envy is of this earth. Envy is demonic. So where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. So we got to begin to learn to kill comparisons, because these comparisons that we have are demonic. I mean, one of the 10 commandments that we have, it's not just saying that this is unhealthy to have this, but it's truly a sin to have this envy and comparison. The 10th commandment is, you shouldn't envy those things. And so it's not just sinful in the eyes of God, but it's so hurtful to God and to ourselves, and it's that demonic part that we're carrying around. Now, with all this said, and we're talking a lot about social media, and I don't know how this plays out in your life as you think about this power of comparison and envy that you might have in your life, but for some of us, we might just need to take a social media break altogether. I'm not saying that you have to, but if it's drawing you to that envy, it might be time to just get away from it. And I said I don't use social media a whole lot, and honestly, it's not that I never have, but it's because of some of the things that it was bringing out in me, this being one of them. Some of that envy I have of comparison that I had problems with, before. And so it's not that I feel that it's bad. I just feel it's not that necessary to me. I'm not judging you and how you use your social media, but it's just more necessary to me to know what's going on in my intimate circle of friends' life than people I don't even know. For some of you, you might just need to hide the feed of somebody else. There may just be some person that just triggers that envy out of you. Some person that's saying things that just kind of said they're going to the lake or what. That's my person, I guess, right? But hide those people. It's maybe that person you just need to not look at their feed to trigger those pieces of envy. Or even away from social media. Some of us might need to just stop watching HGTV. That's probably the worst thing that you can watch if you're trying not to feel envy. Because you watch that channel and those people, man, they have the most nice, and there's some envy that you're like, I want that kitchen. I want that living room. I can tell you guys a secret about HGTV. You might know this already. It's not a big secret, but those people don't have that house either, They set up, they stage those houses, they film it, and they take all their stuff away after that. So they don't have houses that nice either. Maybe it's that you need to delete a shopping app that's on your phone that you're flipping through all the time, and you're like, oh, I really want this tool, or I really want these shoes, or I really want these clothes, or something's just eating at you. Like if I just had more, if I just had this thing, I'd feel so better. But sometimes comparison isn't always just about stuff and things. I know I've dwelt with that a lot, but one of the things that I honestly struggle with in this category is comparison of church. Like this church, I compare it so often to other churches. And There's this church that I have been following a lot for quite a while. I'm not going to mention them by name, but it's only because I don't want to sound like I'm talking negative about them, because they're a good church. They really are. They're good people. They're growing like crazy. I love them, and I don't want to sound like I'm saying anything negative about them, because I never, ever would say anything negative about them at all. But I just think that this is just an awesome church, and the point of my story, it kind of goes like this. I've been really interested in this church for quite a while, really watching them from afar. I actually had the opportunity to go there. And I'm so excited for them and their growth. The things that they were doing really kind of got me excited. And I really watched and monitored and tried to kind of figure out what are they doing, and they're really disruptors, and I don't understand how they're growing in the capacity that they are. And I do all kinds of stuff. I look at their stuff online. I actually was listening to a podcast of theirs months ago one day, driving down the road, and I thought to myself, I'm so excited that this church is growing. And then, I kind of heard God, talking to me in that moment. It wasn't like the audible voice. It wasn't like Mike, but you know how, sometimes you can just tell that God's talking to you. These aren't your own thoughts. So I had this thought, I'm really excited that this church is growing. And then all of a sudden, this came into my head. Are you really? And man, I chewed on that for just a second. And I thought, am I really excited that they're growing? Or do I want that to be me? And that's kind of the answer I came up with, was this comparison that we had. Like I'm looking at what this church is doing, and I'm trying to figure out what they're doing. But it's not because I'm excited about their growth. It's because I wanted my kingdom to grow. I wanted Ignite to grow. So I wasn't excited about God's kingdom growing. I was more excited about what I could do by mirroring and mimicking and replicating what they're doing, so my kingdom here would grow in the same capacity. And man, whenever I had that realization, and you just realize, dude, that's a bad deal. That is some envy, and that is some sin. But one of the good things that kind of came out of that, this idea of, are you really happy for them, or do you wish that was you? It gave me this opportunity to really just repent to God on that. And say, you know what? You're right. This is more about me. And in doing that and deciding that, I need to let go of that. I need to not be worried about what they're doing from that capacity. When I realized that my heart was just really impure in this place, and what I was wanting was more for Ignite or myself, it changed my perspective on how I looked at this situation, and it gave me the opportunity to stop begging God for growth here. Because that's kind of what I was doing, was just begging God for growth. And what I really needed to do is I needed to say, God, you just need to help Ignite do what Ignite needs to do. And that's what we need to be at. That's the place where we need to work. And whenever I began to kill those comparisons, and I said, you know what, God, we're just going to fulfill the purpose that you have for us. And I'm not going to try to, do I want Ignite to grow? Absolutely. I'm not saying that I don't. But I needed to grow for the right reasons. And I wasn't in the right mindset then. And now I realize the reason I was doing it was out of envy, but now I just need to do what God has planned for us and the purpose that He has for us. So we need to kill those comparisons, because envy is demonic. Second thing I wanted to talk about today, if you're taking notes, is through Christ's strength, you can cultivate gratitude. Craig Groeschel defines envy this way. It says, envy is resenting God's goodness in other people's lives and ignoring God's goodness in your own life. Man, that's pretty powerful to think about. When you have envy, you're resenting the God's goodness that He has for other people, but you're ignoring and forgetting about all the great things that God does for you. So, as we cultivate this gratitude, if we look at Proverbs 15:15, it talks about the same thing. It says, for the despondent, every day brings trouble. Some of you people might know somebody who's a despondent in life. Some of you might be a despondent. I don't know. But it's that person that's just always like negative Nelly. It doesn't matter what they say. They're just like, oh, today's going to be a bad day no matter what. Yesterday was a bad day. Today's going to be a bad day. My kids are going to be horrible today. They're brats all the time. I hate my car. I hate my house. I hate everything about it. It's going to be, my job's horrible. I got to go to work. And just that person that just constantly is like, blah, blah, blah. everything is horrible in my life. Kind of that Eeyore mentality, from Winnie the Pooh. It's like, oh, today's horrible, and But for the despondent, every day brings trouble. But for the happy heart, life is a continual feast. For the happy heart, there's always something good to look forward to. For the happy heart, there's always something great that's out there. Because if you want to look for the bad in the world, you can find it. It's there. But if you want to look for the good in the world, you can find that too. If we're looking for the blessings of God, we can see them, the happy heart. There's a feast there all the time. One thing I've always respected about my sister is she just has this different perspective in life. Some of you guys might have met her. She's been here a few times, my sister Trace. She'll come in whenever she's in town or whatever. I've talked about her a few times too. She's the one that I always say is the favorite because she's the favorite. But anyway, I joke with her about that. But, she's one of those people that, everything she does, everything she's ever done is just amazing. Oh, I want to draw. And she just does a beautiful artwork. Or, oh, I want to take up this hobby or this craft. And it's just whatever. It just turns in and flourishes, And so everything she's always done, I'm going to sing. And boom, notes come out of her mouth like I can't even imagine. And just, anyway, so like my whole life, as you can tell, she's my older sister. I've got some bitterness on her too. But anyway, but my whole life, I did look up to her, but that was frustrating to me. And she always has just like this happy, upbeat, positive attitude. And it kind of frustrated me for a little while until I realized, it's not her being fake. She just looks at the world in a different perspective than I do. I'm picking out the negative. I'm trying to find the bad things, trying to find them and weave around. And she doesn't look for that thing. It's not somebody who she's trying to be or who she's faking to be. It's just that's what's in her heart. That's who she is. The happy heart. Life is a continual feast. It's all about that perspective that we have. In fact, Solomon, who was one of the richest men of his times, he says this in Ecclesiastes: enjoy what you have rather than desiring what you don't have. Just dreaming about nice things is meaningless. It's like chasing the wind. Man, if you want to have a continual party in life, enjoy what you have. Instead of looking for all the negative things that are out there, because you'll be able to find them. Instead of looking at somebody's Instagram and being jealous that you don't have what they have, don't have the relationships that they have, don't have the materialistic possessions that they have, don't have the circumstantial life that they have. Instead of just looking for this reasons that you have to be upset in life, we need to look at why we shouldn't be upset. There's this friend of mine that I run into him probably 4 or 5 times a year. We were good friends in high school. And one of the times I ran into him and I was talking to him a little bit. And this guy, I've always kind of looked up to him because he's like I'm pretty structured and normal and routine and I got to do it. And this guy's just like a free spirit, He just goes through life and he's a happy dude and he just lives life to the fullest. And so I kind of respect that about him. I kind of look up to him in that sense because I don't have the courage to go out and do that and to be that kind of a person. So anyway, a few years back, 5, 6 years ago, I ran into him and we're talking about whatever. And he just flat out said to me, he said, Mike, you know what? I just love seeing stuff about you and hearing stuff and hearing what you're doing. And I really look up to you a lot. You exude manliness. That's what he said to me. Guys, if you ever want to give another guy a compliment, or girls even, tell some guy that they exude manliness, and they will never forget that in life. But no, the point of the story is this. Here he is always looking at the positive. And I think, man, I can learn so much from this situation. Here I am looking at you, respecting you, looking up to where you are. And here you are doing the same to me. He's looking at those positive things within our life. Enjoy what we do have instead of longing for what we don't have. There's so much good stuff that we have. The next time you're thinking, man, my car is junk, it's trash, I hate my car. Well, you know what? The fact that you have a car puts you in the top 5% of the most wealthy people on this earth. So we just got to be thankful that we've been blessed with as much as we have. Or we think, man, I really wish I had a better house. man, so many people in this world don't have a house, don't have indoor plumbing, don't have some of the things we have. Heath, who was the founding pastor of Ignite, used to say this all the time. If you've got a garage on your house, you have a house for your car. You have a house for you, and you have a house for your car, both. And we don't think about that. We're just like, man, I don't like my little shack dump of a house that I've got, and this one's so much better, or the way they've decorated this is so much better. But there's so many good things that we can look at that we're blessed with. You know, you're thinking, man, my life is so crazy, and I'm so busy, and I got to work all the time, and I got so many things to do, and work, and this and that. Now, we sometimes got to be thankful that somebody has allowed us to come, and they're going to exchange us being there and doing something for them for money every week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. You know, we get frustrated with our jobs, or we hate them, or whatever, but that's a pretty good deal if you think about it, because there's a lot of people, even that I know here, but even across the whole world as well, that they don't even know where their next meal is coming from, or how they're going to pay for whatever bills they have that are coming in, because they don't have that constant money coming in. Or get frustrated because our family, they take up so much of our time. Oh, I got to run my kid to soccer and to dance and to this and to that. And man, we have a family to do that with. We got to be grateful for that, you know? Like we have the opportunity to take them somewhere because, again, we've got a car. We've got the means to do it. We have events that we can go to. We can be parents that are supportive and go to those things with them, that they have the ambition and desire to go do dance or football or basketball or whatever it is. When you're thinking that your life isn't matching up to what you want it to be, because it's not matching up to all those things that you see in posts and pictures and that other people are putting out there on social media, I want to read this scripture we started off with again real quick. We've learned the secret of being content through killing comparisons, through cultivating gratitude. You know, here's the secret of being content. We know the secret of being content in every situation, whether we're hungry or whether we're full, whatever it is. So I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Because Christ is all I need, I'm going to pursue him with all my heart. Can I pray with you guys as we close out today?